Hi guys, it's Kate back for the second part of my Q&A video, and the first question for this video is from Troy Towell, and he says, are you a writer as well as a reader? And I am not a writer. I do have notions sometime in the future of being a writer, and I think if I wrote anything, it would be children's picture books, because I do adore children's books, and I think it'd be super fun, and I think it will involve animals and animals being friends with one another. I would want to write something that was really sweet and whimsical and fun for parents from a different generation to read to their children. So that's kind of what I've thought about, but I don't know if it will actually happen. The next question is from Amanda Center. She had some good questions. Her two questions are, what is your favorite wintry tradition, and what is my favorite kind of tea? My favorite wintry tradition, I think, is probably walking around in the snow, ideally, and like taking a walk at night in like a snowy neighborhood and looking at all the Christmas lights. Even I love it, like if they're extra cheesy, it's just like really fun to look at and see all the different decorations that people use on their houses. So yeah, I definitely love like taking walks and seeing Christmas lights, and hot cocoa is always welcome. And then I think in addition to that, I just love like being all cozy in the winter. I love like curling up with like really warm socks and warm PJs and watching a really cozy period drama and having hot cocoa or hot tea or coffee, just some kind of hot beverage. That's what I like really love to do in the winter. And then what is my favorite kind of tea is definitely Earl Grey. It has bergamot flavoring in it, which tastes a little bit like citrus, but it's totally its own thing. That is definitely my favorite kind of tea. I never am tired of it. The next question is from Raised Reads. Who is my most owned author? And it was a landslide for Ruth Rendell, and I have 32 of Ruth Rendell's books because I own all of the Inspector Wexford. There are 24 in that series, and then I also have just some standalones of her books. So that's a lot. And then in second place was W. Somerset Maugham. I have 14 of his books, and I have not really talked about him a lot on this channel because I haven't been reading him as much, but he is one of my favorite authors, so that is why I own so many books by him. The next question is from Jan O, and she asks, how many hours a day or week do I usually read? And I had to think about this one too, and I'm not really sure. I'll say for like concentrated hours where I just sit and do nothing but read, at the most in a day, it's going to be 4 hours, because 2 hours after Peter's in bed and 2 hours while he naps. That's the most of concentrated reading I'll have. And then all of the other reading is very interrupted, very just like here and there, and so I don't know how much time that is. And then have the genres that I reach for changed? And I would say yes, to a certain extent. Right after high school, I was reading lots of historical fiction. I was very into that. And I still do enjoy it. I just find myself not reaching for it as much. And then later into college, I discovered mysteries, and I started reading those a lot. And then about 4 years ago, I discovered modern classics like I Capture the Castle, A Room with a View, Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day, and that has really like made me want more modern classics like that. Just Julie says, how much time do I spend reading a day, and how do I fit it in with having a child? So like I said before, at most concentrated effort. I mean, I guess if I'm really into a book, I'll stay up late and read. So I don't know, if it was like my ideal day of reading, I would get in 6 hours of reading. And it just depends on the day. And some tips I would say is I always have a book with me, and I do books in different formats. So I always have some kind of audiobook available. And it might not be like the book I'm reading exclusively, but if it ends up that I go like on a walk outside with a stroller, then it's nice to be able to get some reading in too. And then I always bring a book on my phone with me. That's a way to get in a little bit here and there. And then I just often choose books over TV. I think that's what it comes down to also, it is like my main hobby. And then Stephanie from That's What She Read asked, what is my husband's favorite book? So I asked him, and he gave me a top 3, and the first is The White Company by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And that is kind of like a swashbuckling high seas adventure, and he really likes it just because it's really fun and just has a very like dynamic and lively atmosphere to it. And then My Man Jeeves by P.G. Wodehouse. In case you don't know about the Jeeves and Wooster books by P.G. Wodehouse, if you're watching this channel and you like modern classics, it's likely that this might be an avenue of books that you should really check out. These are very humorous. They're set in the 30s in England, and just a bunch of like high society people who don't have jobs to hold down, and they just get to socialize all day long, and they're full of such humor. And I actually like watching the miniseries even more than the books, so these are just really fun. And so sometimes I'll give them to my husband for like Christmas or his birthday, and if a few days later I hear he's off by himself and he's just like laughing hysterically, I'll know that he's reading his present that I got him. And then the last book for a nonfiction that he picked is Anti-Fragile by Nassim Taleb. This is a really, really interesting book, and some of the synopsis, it just says, just as human bones get stronger when subjected to stress and tension, many things in life benefit from disorder, volatility, and turmoil. What Taleb has identified and calls anti-fragile is that category of things that not only gain from chaos but need it in order to survive and flourish. The resilient resists shocks and stays the same. The anti-fragile gets better and better. What is crucial is that the anti-fragile loves errors as it incurs small harm and large benefits from them, spanning politics, urban planning, war, personal finance, economic systems, and medicine. Anti-fragile is a blueprint for living in a black swan world, which is a previous book that he wrote. And so I think this is just really about how you can kind of frame your life around being willing to kind of come up against the like hard-hitting problems that you have, and just being willing to take them head on and figure out a solution and kind of make it work. Then Amanda J. Oh, and then Stephanie also asked me what's a book I'm looking forward to sharing with Peter, and that ties in with Amanda J's question. She says, what are my favorite children's books and for myself and also to read to my children? So my favorite children's books, I have a long list here that I thought about. Gone Away Lake by, I have the book right here, it's Elizabeth Enright, and The Wind in the Willows, The Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basily Frankweiler, Ella Enchanted, Harry Potter, Little Women, and then the ones that I'm especially looking forward to reading aloud to my children are The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. They are some of the most whimsical children's stories, and I love the allegorical elements of them, and just the art of storytelling in them is wonderful. The Little House on the Prairie series by Laura Ingalls Wilder, about a family who traveled all across the country in the pioneer era in America, which is also a really fascinating time in the United States history. And then the series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. I love the dark humor in it. Winnie the Pooh by A.A. Milne, the Beatrix Potter books, so Peter Rabbit, Squirrel Nutkin, Benjamin Bunny. I'm really looking forward to reading all of those when Peter's a little bit older. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl, and The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. Those are some of the ones that I'm really looking forward to reading aloud, and I think they're very conducive for that. And then, what country in the world intrigues you and makes me want to read fiction or nonfiction set there? So the first 5 that came to mind are France, and that was especially after reading French Kids Eat Everything combined with My Father's Glory, My Mother's Castle. That's a memoir that takes place in France. England, you all know I'm such an Anglophile. Russia, Scotland, and Greece. Those are kind of the countries that interest me. And then I think somebody asked a question, but I kind of like forgot to put it in here, about what were some of the books that I loved as a child that made me like really excited about reading. And one is Gone Away Lake by Elizabeth Enright. This is one of the ones that I was like, okay, reading is really awesome. And then going back even younger, one of the ones that I was really captivated by were Sheep in a Jeep. And I don't know if any of you have read this. I got this at the library recently for my son, but it's just about all of these like crazy sheep that drive around in a Jeep, and they don't know how to drive around in the Jeep well, and I just remember loving it, and it rhymes, so it's a great one to read for kids. And then I also remember my 3rd grade teacher reading the Little House. She read us Little House on the Prairie, and I think she started with reading Little House on the Big Woods, in the Big Woods. So those were 2 that really captivated me and made me want to check out more books. This ends my Q&A. Thank you for all the lovely questions that you sent, and I will see you guys for another video.